Welcome to our Thursday training. We do this every Thursday at 2 p.m. My name is Tony Ruiz, part of the Productive Agent Facebook group and podcast. This week, we've invited Mark Chambers to come on and talk about mindset. He did this presentation just a couple of days ago with another group. It was awesome. So I can't wait for him to share all of his knowledge with us. So take it away, Mark.
Okay. Well, great. Thanks everyone for coming. I just drove up to Dallas Fort Worth very quickly. Dropped my mom off at a friend's house. She's up here for a memorial service, and then rushed over to my sister. So I feel like I just jumped out of the car, but I will give it my best shot. As Tony mentioned, and Tony, you can hear me okay, correct?
Yeah, everything's good.
Okay. As Tony mentioned, I did kind of a similar presentation on Monday. So if you were part of that, I apologize. I'm going to go a little bit deeper, but it's basically the same information. So let me get this in present mode. Okay, cool. Now let's see if I can get everybody off my screen. Hang on. No offense, everyone. All right, there we go. Mindset, the first step to success. I thought this would be good since we're still in January. I know most of us were busy making our goals and setting, kind of what we wanted to happen in 2023 already at the end of the year or at the very beginning of the year. But one important thing I've learned is beyond setting what your goals are, you really want to focus in on your mindset. And if you're not in the right mindset, then nothing else really matters. So it's a good, important start. Tony already introduced me. I think I know almost everyone on the call, but just very quickly, I'm a former educator, former band director. I've been in real estate for 8 years, a two-time Icon agent. So if you're with EXP, you know what that means. If not, it just means that you sell at a certain point. I'm a certified mentor. I've got 8 mentees right now. And I'm a former managing broker for EXP and a Platinum Top 50 finalist in 2021. So it's kind of my pedigree for real estate. Just throw that out there really quickly. So mindset is really about what it takes to get to your destination. And in the book, You're a Badass at Making Money, which is a terrible title, but it's a great book. Jen Sincero is the author of that book. And if you've never read it, I highly suggest you do. I actually suggest the audiobook over reading the book just because the author, Jen, reads it and she's hilarious and it's very entertaining. And you really pick up a lot from her just by listening to her. But she kind of puts it as you're driving a bus. And the bus is your beliefs. And where you're going with the bus depends on 5 different things. So if we talk about beliefs and driving the bus, where's it going to go? Our belief system is everything. And your belief system comes from lots of different things, but mostly from your background, from the way you were raised, from what you experienced with your family and your parents, going through college, whatever it may have been, your experiences in life and the influences you've had in your life are your belief system. And a lot of people like to call it blueprint. So beliefs are a big part of driving the bus, and they are the substance of what the bus is. So if you think of the bus as your beliefs, think of it in that way and what that is for you. And we all have different belief systems. And then your thoughts are the tour guide. So, as you think is as your bus is going to go. It's the direction you're going to take. So your thoughts are very, very, very powerful. So you can have what you consider a set of beliefs, but if your thoughts don't reinforce that, it's not going to happen. So an example of that would be, I can tell myself over and over that I am 6'2" or whatever. I can tell myself something, but if I don't really believe it, if I don't think I really am, stop laughing, Brandon. I see you laughing at my height there. Some people don't know me. I'm on a Zoom. I could be 6'2". Okay. But no, if it's something you're saying or you're saying out loud, but you don't really believe it, your beliefs, you're not reinforcing it. It's not in alignment. So your thoughts have to be in alignment with your beliefs. So if you want to change your belief system, you have to change your thoughts, and that's really difficult to do because so many of our thoughts come from our subconscious. They come from, she calls it in the book, little prince. Like if a child becomes a prince all of a sudden, just because of their background. She calls it the little prints that affects your thoughts. And so you don't even
They need to get
realize,
washed.
Yeah, that's what I said. You want to watch it?
you don't even realize that your thoughts are going where they go. I don't know how many people on this call sometimes find your mind wandering in a place that you didn't want it to, or that you don't care for. Yeah, me too. So it's really a difficult thing to do. So your thoughts are the tour guide. They're going to drive, they're going to change the course of the bus depending on what you think. And they can totally change where you're planning on going very quickly. And then your words reinforce, they're the assistant to the thoughts and beliefs. And they reinforce what you're thinking. So as you think, those words come out of your mouth. And words are powerful. What you say, you manifest. If you say it, you're thinking it, and you say it, you're reinforcing it. You know, I'll never be any good at tennis. Oh, well, okay. You'll never be good at tennis. You just said you're not going to be, you know? So I can't do this, or I can't do real estate, or I never get listings, or whatever comes out of your mouth. You really need to be careful about what you say, because you're reinforcing it, and it's reinforcing your thoughts and your beliefs. So you can think of the words as the assistant to the tour guide, if you will. And then there's the emotions. And she talks about how all of these are equally important. But if you had to give one that's more important than the other, if there is such a thing, because they all kind of are equal, it would be the emotions, because we act from emotion. We don't do anything that we're not passionate about, or that we're not emotional about. So if we really find ourselves taking action in our lives, it's because our emotions have reinforced it. Emotions are the fuel to the bus. And if you don't have the emotions to it, the bus is going nowhere. So it's really important. You know, sometimes we're told in our society to be less emotional. But the reality is we need to feel in order to do. So if those emotions, and I'm going to talk about this in just a minute, if those emotions are negative emotions that aren't serving you well, then, you know, that's the kind of fuel that's going to do what it does. And if you're trying to reach a certain goal, or you're trying to get your bus to go a certain place, then your emotions you have to feel that. You have to be passionate about it. You have to care about it. And sometimes that's hard to do. It's hard to make our emotions be where we want them to be, because something took place that day, or we woke up and things didn't go as expected, or we got blindsided by something that we didn't necessarily expect. So emotions are definitely the fuel. And then actions are the road. So what you do and the action you take paves where you're going to go. And Jen Sincero talks about that when you have one or two of these key parts of the bus in place, you can make some steps towards where you want to go. But when you actually find yourself in those, I don't know what the word, in the zone, athletes call it in the zone, or when you find everything, like I was talking to Tony maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and you had not being very active, maybe over the break. And he was telling me, you know, all of a sudden I just started aligning everything and taking action, and boom, this popped into my lap, or boom, I got a listing appointment type thing. When our beliefs and our thoughts and what we're saying, and we feel a certain way, and we actually take action, when all those five are in alignment and they're jiving together, they synchronize, then things really begin to manifest themselves. And that's a difficult thing to do. And again, like I said, it's not that one thing can't help you get a certain place, but when they're all aligned, it's as she says, there's nothing that you can't do, that you can think you can't do. And if you can think it, you can do it. Because if it wasn't possible, you wouldn't be able to think it. You wouldn't know it existed. So I thought that was a really good analogy about your mindset. And I've never really broken it down that way before in my life. So if you isolate this, and then I'm going to take a little break and ask for some input from you guys, but if you isolate this and you really start to look at what your belief system is, you may be surprised. In this particular book, which is about making money, she talks a lot about how so many of us, and I fit into this category somewhat, have been taught that making money is a bad thing, or that the word money is bad. And she says it's no different. Can you imagine if we walked outside and we were taught that the word sky was bad? Well, every time you'd walk out, you'd be surrounded by something bad. So, like anything, it can be used in not a good way, money, but we've been taught certain things. So, in isolating mine, one thing I've been taught is that if you're a spiritual person, or if you care about that side, then money is bad. And I'm by the way, I'm not an evangelist that's about to tell you about prosperity theory or anything like that. I'm just saying that we all have. You may come from a background where your family saw people with money as a negative thing, and so in her book, her point is your belief system. It's the book goes beyond money. Just trust me. But your belief system just reinforces what you think you can and you cannot do. And if your belief system is not where you want to be, you have to work on that. You have to think about that. So I think I think that's a real key thing for me. It's thoughts. I can wake up in the morning and immediately catch myself with negative thoughts about my to-do list or whatever in the day. So, before I pop on beyond all of that, does anybody have anything they want to add to that? Or does anybody have any thoughts about that in their own life that they've experienced?
Feel free to unmute yourself and jump in with any thoughts or questions you might have.
I'm going to check the chat.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on the chat as well. I wanted to mention that. So if you have questions, as Mark is going, feel free to type them into the chat. We'll get to them towards the end. But yeah, I'll keep an eye on the chat as well.
Okay, sounds good. Well, so having said all that, I'm going to move forward a little bit. So as we're going through this, and you're thinking in your mind, okay, so my thoughts are really important, or my emotions are really important. I can't always control how I feel. And so that's a valid point. And so a lot of this is from Tony Robbins. We live basically emotional energy wise. We live in 4 different quadrants, and you can see them on the screen in front of you. We have high energy and low energy, and we have negative energy, and we have positive energy. And so in those 4 quadrants, if you're in the bottom left one, you've got negative energy and low energy. And I think we've probably all been there before. And so some of the characteristics that are associated with that are sadness and guilt and depression. Maybe you feel alone, or you have negative expectations. And I've known some people, we've all lived in this quadrant before, but I've known some people that kind of hang out a long time in this quadrant. I can think of a person that I sold a home that I still keep up with. And she always expects the negative thing to happen. And it usually does. It's kind of amazing how much negativity she's had in her life, how many tragedies have occurred. And she will consistently speak that. And she does it on Facebook a lot. And I want to say something like, hey, don't say that, let's get you out of that place. But like I said, we've all hung out there some. And of course we can all relate to this in that top left quadrant where our energy is really high, but we're really negative. Well, that's anger, or you're fearful, or you're frustrated, or you feel like revenge. And again, you have negative expectations. How many of you would agree that we have a lot of this going on in our world right now? Lots of anger and lots of fear. And you can just see it everywhere. It's all you see in media anymore. It's just a lot of anger and a lot of fear. So that can have its place, and we've all been there. I've actually a few times in my life had high energy with a little bit of anger, a little bit of fear, and it served me well in a weird way for a moment. I had a friend who was a percussionist, really good, Aaron Guidry, for those of you that know him. told me that some of his greatest accomplishments came out of fear of failure. Okay. So, fear of failure does drive a lot of people. And we've all been up there too. So we can relate to that. But where we really want to be about 90% of the time is in the bottom right quadrant. And that's positive energy, but low energy. So contentment, relaxed, we feel safe, we feel loved, but we have positive expectations. So that's where you want to be when you're, in a low energy state. You want to be in a positive energy state as much as you can. And that's where we want to hang out. That's where we want to live. But in that top right quadrant, high energy, the performance quadrant, we call it, high energy, inspiration, confidence, love, positive expectations. That's where we want to be when we're off to a listing appointment. That's where we want to be when we're in performance mode. If you've ever been a performer, a dancer, a musician, an athlete, this is the zone. This is where athletes want to be during the height of the game. You want to feel inspired and confident and, have positive expectations, high energy. The thing is, we can't live there all the time because it's taxing, but we want to be able to go there when we need to go there. So Tony Robbins talks a lot about when you're in a bottom left quadrant, negative, low energy, and you recognize it, the key is to recognize it, and the key is to get yourself out of it as quickly as you can. And so there's some techniques that you can use to do that. And so, and I'll go over a couple of those. You want to get over to that right quadrant as quickly as you can. When you need to be in performance quadrant, there are things that you can do to get you in that state of mind, so to speak. So I'm just curious, does anybody on this call have a way that they prepare for the performance quadrant? So like Val, when you were teaching dancers, was there a ritual? Was there something you did or the girls did, or any of you that were, have had a performance side of yourself? You're a golfer, you're getting ready to do something. If anybody wants to share, and I'll share what I do sometimes too, but I'm curious to know what you guys do. Come on.
Val wants to talk, but Val, you're muted. I want to hear what you have to say. Oh. She's working on it.
All right.
Yeah, I remember. I've mentioned this before. Val, you there?
No, we don't hear you, Val. Go ahead, Tony. We'll wait on Val.
Yeah, and back in the performance days when I was marching Santa Clara and all that, we would I would listen to music on the way to the show. I'd be dressed in half uniform and listen to Lose Yourself by Eminem, and get pumped up, ready to go. And nowadays, as I get out of the shower, I turn on Real AF with Andy Frisella, and he curses a lot, F-bombs left and right. But for whatever reason, it's really resonating with me right now. And I'm just going, yeah, let's get out there and let's have the confidence and let's go do this. And that's kind of how I start my day pretty much every day for the past 3 weeks. So I think Val is back. Go for it.
Can you hear me?
We can now.
Sorry, I have these new ear pods, whatever. Anyway, well, so I'm an over preparer, and for those of you that know me, about that about me. But that's kind of how I would prepare to be in front of my kids. But when I was teaching dance, the way that I put together some of the best pieces that I choreographed, it's very organic. It has to happen in person, but you have to prepare to be in that mode, which means I would listen to the piece of music. I would have everything as planned out as possible, except for the choreography. So I would have a Google sheet with all of the 8 counts, transition moments where I think it would make it important. I would highlight 8 counts where I think the music needed something extra. And then in person, I would have my layout, but in person, I would organically put things together. And those are the best pieces that I think that I choreographed. And I feel like I do the same in real estate. I try to over prepare so that when I'm in front of people, it comes out a lot more naturally, a lot more me. And then I'm more personable and not very robotic, but in my head, I can see the pictures that I've already put together.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's, and that's why you were so good at that and rocking it in real estate. I think that's fantastic. Going back to Aaron Guidry, again, this is a teacher that I used to work with, who now works for Cirque du Soleil. He's a rock star. And he used to, when I would watch him teach his classes, he would just have a room full of kids just mesmerized. And he was just so good. He was such a good teacher, and he was right out of college, and I had a little more experience. I would say, I don't know how you do that. How do you do that so well? And he'd say, I know the materials so well that it's a part of who I am, that I know I just know what I'm going to say. And so I learned from him, and I've actually some real estate coaches, that when you are prepared, if you prepare, really prepare, then you're more comfortable and it's more natural. So I think that's great. Um, yeah. Anybody else have anything to share about like how you prepare for your performance quadrant? Like when you're going to go perform, do something? Anybody else have things?
Tony, I'll definitely piggyback off of what you said about Andy Frisella. Like a lot of his podcasts is like political type stuff, which is whatever. But the one thing that he keeps talking about over and over and over, almost every episode, is personal excellence. And if you can take that and manifest it, like the way that he talks about it is just insanely incredible. What it can do to just your perception about life, the people you interact with, the company you keep, like it's crazy. And so I've been listening to him a lot lately too, even going back like older episodes just to recap stuff. But it's pretty inspiring.
Yeah, it's great stuff. I listen to mainly the Q&A-Fs because those are questions from listeners that are all about pretty much personal development. Sometimes I listen to the CTI. He gets very political on those, but I usually skip over those. But the Q&A-Fs are really, really good. So I highly encourage y'all to listen to it. If you're not offended by foul language, he has a really good message. And I used to listen to YouTube videos. I'll just find like motivation channels and watch or listen to a YouTube video while I'm getting ready. Those help out quite a bit. And like last week, I found myself in a little bit of a rut in the middle of the day. And I'm doing this 75 hard. And I was like, I got to knock out my reading. So I didn't really feel like doing work right then in that moment. But I was like, well, let me go ahead and get my reading out of the way. So I spent 30 minutes, did my reading. And that triggered me to be motivated, be inspired to get out and do some action. And it just led right into more work.
That's cool. Thanks, Brandon. Anybody else? I'm going to have to start listening to what's his name?
Yeah, I would be interested to see you listen to him, Andy Frisella. If you type in on podcast, it's real.
Is he the 75 hard guy?
Yeah, real AF.
So Alan, Alan was listening to that too. I don't think I'd be offended. I'd probably skip over all the political stuff, but hey.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'd be cool. Anyone else have anything else to share? Please do if you do.
JJ, I don't know if you're free. I see that you're on here. Do you have anything that kind of puts you in this performance quadrant that we're talking about? Like when you're getting ready for a presentation or anything like that you wouldn't mind sharing with the group?
You know he does.
I'm sure he does.
Can you guys hear me? I'm on the road. I shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Call your mom, man. Call your mom. My first call. I played tricks with my brain, and I'm being serious. I played tricks with myself. I have a best friend that lives in Washington State. I have another couple of friends in San Diego. I call my mom. I have a brother, and he lives in Humble now. You can't say the H in Texas. And I call them before I start my call. Sometimes I call them before I do training. Sometimes, you know, if you didn't need to do 20 great conversations a day or whatever, you're hitting it hard with your performance quadrant. Like, there's no easier call than your mom or your dad or your cousin or your best friend. They're your hype people. They're the people that love you and they support you. They want the best for you. So I like to hear from them, right? because after I talk to them, then everything gets a lot easier after that.
Yeah, I like that.
Absolutely.
That's good. I've done that with a friend or two, to where I just call them, and then you're just in a better mood, and then you get going.
I usually call my mom when, and then I'm in that bottom left quadrant. So anyway, no, but that's great. That's great input, JJ. I appreciate that. Anybody else? Okay, well, I'll wrap this section up by just saying that the book, The Miracle Morning, I think it is. There's a story. It might be that one. It might be another one about a woman who, before she goes on a listing appointment, has a set of shoes that she always puts on. For me, it's music. If I'm going into battles, so to speak, good battles, so to speak, I always have a certain set of songs I like to play that just kind of get my mind. Music is powerful to me. It can change your mood in an instant. So for me, music. Tony Robbins talks a lot about just get yourself in a high energy state, and he has these physical things you do where you pump your fists back and forth if you can't go running or something. So it's really physically getting your body going and mentally getting yourself in that place to go perform. I was the corps director for the Crossmen. It's a drum corps. We had rituals that we did before every performance. I'm sure you did at SCV as well, Tony. And we would always do those rituals and those things that would get us hyped up for our show. Like Val, I was a director of a group. You have to be careful not to overhype young people. But I did a lot of like what she's talking about. We would mentally think through what we were going to do, the transitions that were going to take place in our show. We would talk through those briefly and touch those little spots. So it's what works for you. There's no particular one thing, but what works for you is what gets us in that performance quadrant. You can do the same thing for the low energy, positive energy side, the bottom right. You can do lots of things. I'm going to talk a little bit about that to kind of wrap up this presentation. So responsibility, the ability to respond. Tony Robbins talks about strategies to change your emotional state. And I've seen, this isn't just Tony Robbins, this is in lots of different books. But let's say you're in a place where you want to change your emotional state. You want to change the way you feel and the way you're thinking. Number one that can help you do that is gratitude. So I try to do that every morning as a part of a little ritual I do. But if I'm in a weird place, if I just stop and kind of slow my breathing and just look around and think about what's positive in my life, what I'm grateful for, just stop and think of 3 things. You cannot be in a negative emotional state if you're feeling grateful. So that's sometimes not easy to do, but it's really important to do. And it can not instantly, but it can really change the way you feel when you're in that place. Exercise is another one. If you begin to exercise, and I won't get into the scientific side because I don't really know it, but they talk, I think, like endorphins or something, it raises chemicals in your body that get you into a different place. I just mentioned music. Listen to something positive or something that makes you feel good, that changes whatever you're feeling. And music is a great one to tap into. Another one is nature. Take a hike or go for a drive. I've done that before. I've gotten in my car and driven around. And I know I'm a little weird. A lot of people want to go look at a lake or trees. I like to look at really fancy houses. It just puts me in a good mood. Like I'll just drive down to Olmos Park and go, wow, that is so cool looking. I'm in a good mood now. No, I'm being serious. I'm weird. But stuff like that makes me happy. For my wife, it's definitely nature. Like find a rock in a stream and she's like, not even it with us. It's just crazy. So hers is nature big time. Obviously anytime you're learning something new, it's taking your mind to that place. So that can be a class, it can be reading a book. Escape, a lot like getting out in nature, but maybe it's going to a movie or a ball game, something where you can mentally check out and take your mind to a different place. I think this one is the biggest one, positive people. We all know those people that they're just always positive. They always have their demeanor is always positive. That would not be me, but I know people like that. And so have lunch or hang out with someone who's really positive. And then mentors and coaches. I think this is huge, especially in our industry. Just having a person that you can call. There's lots of people on this call right now that are that for me. Like I could point to almost every single one of you. It's several of you here that I know I can just call and vent to, or say, hey, I'm not in a good place, or whatever. So turn to those people to help, avoid the traps, and use this group too, Productive Agents. The whole purpose of this group is to support each other so that we don't feel like we're, on an island by ourselves. So use mentors and coaches. Those are great resources. I have I can't recommend that enough. I have a coach now that has been my second week, Rich Tomasini. He's in North Carolina, but and he's coaching me on some things that are uncomfortable for me. But as he coaches me, I'll often say, hey, can I talk to you from a thing last Friday? And he's like, give me a call real quick. So find somebody like that in your life. And by the way, he has me do a lot of these things that we're talking about in terms of mentally and emotionally. So those are some things. Does anybody have anything that's not on this list that you do to get your mind back in a good place? A bottle of wine? I don't know. I'm just kidding. These probably cover most of it. So really cool stuff with that. So this is from the Miracle Morning, or the Miracle Morning for Real Estate Agents. And these are basically rituals. I bet you everyone here probably does some form of some of this, but rituals and routines to establish your mindset. So every morning I've got a little routine I do when I get up in the morning, and I've done it enough now that it's all a habit. I always hydrate. I drink a lot of water. I do it with Himalayan pink salt and some apple cider vinegar. I don't know why. I read it somewhere, and I think it makes me feel much better. So I hydrate. No grinning on this call, please. And then I kind of go into this, what you're going to see here. They call it SAVERS: silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. But silence, it's, Oprah talks about, there was a moment where she was on vacation in a hotel that had this balcony that overlooked the ocean. Of course, Oprah would have that kind of room. And she said she woke up in the middle of the night and she walked out and she was just silent, and just all of these thoughts came to her that were very, I don't want to use the word inspirational, but they were just foreshadowing things that were to come for her. They were moments of brilliance and eye-opening things that she got from it. And she's a big believer in this, and I am too, that if you'll just be quiet and listen, is a time where you can really get some of your best thoughts and maybe some of your best ideas and some of your most creative moments. We're always so busy thinking about whatever just happened. And if you've ever tried to meditate, it's difficult to do because then there's a car alarm in the distance or something like that. But meditating, breathing, if you're a spiritual person, saying your prayers, starting your day with a moment of silence and prayer is a good way to start. And so that for me is a very important part of my day. Otherwise, I used to just get up and go at it. And whenever something would come at me, I would react to it. So I was always in a state of reaction. Affirmations are really important. So I'm trying something with my coach, and I'm going a different direction with some things that I don't feel very strong with, that I don't feel very comfortable with. So I'm having to do some affirmations that I'm capable of doing it. And so I have to affirm those. So for me, those are, and in the book, it talks about writing them down multiple times. So if your affirmation is, I'm a positive person of action today, every day, I'm a positive person of action, you would write that down. Tony Robbins talks about saying your affirmations over and over and over while you're doing something physical. So what I try to do is go on a walk and say my affirmations to myself. That doesn't look like it's spelled correctly, but I'll check it later. So I say my affirmations as I'm walking, and getting some exercise and getting my body physically going. And I think I try not to just say them. I try to actually think about what they mean. And I say them a certain number of times, and I've got several. I've got 7 that I do. And visualizing what it is that you're trying to affirm, what it is that you're wanting to see in your life. Exercise, of course, for all the reasons we know. Reading a book and reading something that's going to benefit you. And then this last one I told everyone on Monday, it's very true, scribing. I don't do a very good job of writing down my thoughts, but writing down or journaling your day at the end of the day, I don't think Mark Kell's on this call, but I know he does that, is very good. Again, I don't do it. I think somebody on Monday mentioned they do and why it helps them. Does anybody here, are you consistent with writing down your thoughts each day?
I do.
You do?
I do. Yeah, I started in January. It was the last part of Savers that I put in place because I thought it was BS. So I didn't do it. But in January, I was like, okay, I'll do it. And yeah, I've been doing it since. And it's, I don't know, for me, it's a nice moment to really just, sometimes things come out that I didn't realize were hiding back there. So yeah.
So no regrets. You're glad you did it.
No regrets. Yeah, sticking to it.
Okay, so you do Savers.
Yes.
Cool. Do you do it pretty much the way I described it, or do you do it a little bit differently?
I exercise first because I have to, because I don't know when he's going to wake up. But otherwise, yeah, I pretty much do it right down. And then I added in a lesson for, I'm learning Chinese, right? So I added in like a 10-minute Chinese lesson, and that just helps me, I don't know, feel accomplished for the day.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. Well, yeah, I know I need to write. I don't know why I don't want to.
I mean, I just didn't think it would be beneficial. So I was like, well, I'm not going to do that.
Do you write down at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day?
I try in the morning, but again, like if he wakes up and disturbs me, I'll do it at night. I like it more in the morning because at night I feel like I'm more just recapping and it's like, meh.
Yeah.
In the morning, it's like, I don't know. It's more stuff that was hidden back there.
I get you. Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. I did it. Haven't done it in a while. I had like a whole journal going, and it was all electronic. It was on a Google Doc. And I would just kind of like recap a little bit, and it's just like just talking to somebody, and then I'm talking to myself and I'm writing it out, and talk about what happened yesterday, what I'm grateful for. It's pretty powerful. I'm not sure. I think it's just I did away with it because of time crunch. Like, okay, I got to get going. But it's something that I did enjoy when I did it. But I pretty much do all the other stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, cool. Well, I know I need to. And for me, it was going to be at the end of the day. And I guess what I found at the end of the day is I'm just going until it's over. And then I'm tired. And but it's something that is my goal to start doing. I got to be honest, I'm also afraid somebody's going to find what I write down, like my kids. And then I'm like, do I really want people to know what I'm thinking? But no, I think it would be a wonderful, good thing. So no, that's a routine. I know a lot of different people have a lot of different things that they do. Some people, the exercise is a big part, and that's the first thing they do. And so, yeah, the point of it is to have a routine that gets your mind set as you go. And for me, the first part of what we were talking about today, and then of course take action. I'll get back to that at the end. But the belief system, the bus that I talked about, beliefs, thoughts, words, emotions, and actions that was just eye-opening for me to hear that. And how, if those align, you can really do exactly what it is you want to do. In the end, I'm going to wrap up this little presentation with action. It's all about taking action. I think Brent Gove says progress is better than perfection. So any kind of action, even if it's not perfect, if your heart's in the right place and you're going towards the direction you want to go, action is the key. So even if it's working on mindset, that's an action for me. It's a goal of mine. The key is to do it, to go after it. So with that said, that's pretty much it. Mindset is an important part of what we do. It's not something you can just think about in January. It's something that you have to think about every day, and it does become more of a habit. And as you become more aware of what's going through your mind, you catch things sooner, and you're able to, as Tony Robbins says, your ability to respond happens quicker. So I would encourage all of you to kind of make it your own, whatever resonates with you in that. And let's keep this going. Let's keep this positive conversation going throughout the year in this group.
Thanks for sharing all that. Does anybody have any questions? We'll open it up. Just turn on your mic. You want to share any wins, something that's working for you in 2023? Have you been practicing these types of things? No, nobody wants to share.
No
I was
wins.
trying to hit the
I'll share
unmute thing.
something. Hey everybody, my name's
Yeah.
Sark. I'm a little bit late. I'm sorry for catching the last bit of this. I was teaching a little bit at the college during the day. But anyways, for the last bit that I caught, some of the things that I've been doing is, kind of like what you were saying, is to try to form a schedule and try to have things where you're just not working for 10 hours straight, just sitting down. You can kind of break it up. And so one of the things that I've been doing, sort of like Christina was saying, is I'm trying to have a set schedule where I work out in the mornings to get my mind in the right place. And like, as I'm going through my walk, listening to audio books that are inspiring, not necessarily like real estate related, but just getting in the right headspace. One of them that I'm listening to now is David Goggins. He's got like this really cool story, and it's just really inspiring to get you in the right headspace, just stuff like that. And I feel like it sets my day up to, be in the right space. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great stuff. I know when I first started